100 years ere seed sown. Truth was twisted, its seeds were grown. Break the lies, spark the mission. Welcome to Quranic Inquisition.
Hello and welcome everybody. And we have two very special guests in the house tonight. We have Usama Dakdok, the original terror that flaps in the night. And we have JC from the Quranic Inquisition, who kindly allows me to use his awesome intro. That was an awesome intro, right, Usama?
Love it, man. I wish it a little bit longer. I mean, did you cut it short or that's...
No, that's it. But it looks like the Inquisition is growing. And you know what they say? You guys probably weren't expecting JC here tonight because you know why? Nobody expects the Inquisition.
JC, I love it. I love it. I wish it can go. I love the music. I just start moving with it in my chest here. And then stop. Like, whoa, what is that? But the pictures speak for a few thousand words. So I got some thought about it, but I don't know what's in it yet. So we'll find out.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. So we're back to our usual program of the Revelation of Error, otherwise known as the Quran. And we're going to be doing Joshua this evening. And it's going to be interesting, but then also JC's going to do a section. And on Friday, the four of us, along with Odon, are going to be doing another talk on JC's work in the Quran. We're going to be taking apart various chapters, verses, sentences, and
Oh, have we just lost Lloyd?
Yeah, I think he got so excited.
Oh,
You and I.
there.
Yeah,
JC, welcome.
Okay, so I don't know who actually lost the connection, but I think we are all back.
I think Streamlabs lost it, I think, because I think we all got disconnected for a second. Remember, there's an Amazon outage, right? It's causing problems everywhere. Yeah, so JC, welcome back. So tell us what you're up to.
Well, just first of all, thank you very much for the invite, Lloyd and Usama. It's very nice meeting you at last. And well, what we are doing on our channel is we've noticed that there are many verses in the Quran which they are not about Muhammad. They have never been about Muhammad, but people like the likes of Ibn Kathir, or rather the tafsir writers, they wrote stories and said, no, this is about Muhammad. So this is pretty much what we are trying to do. Find all of the verses that have absolutely nothing to do with Islam and then saying, hey, look at these. They actually look like it's talking about Jesus or Moses or those sort of things, to try to understand a little bit better what happened and how the Quran became the phenomenal, perfectly preserved revelation that we now have.
Very unique.
Yeah.
Very unique.
And it makes a lot of sense. And if you listen to Odon from his book, The Great Secret of Islam, looking at the history of Islam, it all starts to converge and make sense. Because a lot of it seems obviously to be talking about Jesus. If you look at we're looking at the Sirah. You are looking at the Tafsir. And clearly it is all about the Bible. I mean, there's more mentions of Moses and Jesus than there are of Muhammad, who barely appears in his own book.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing. I was just thinking about that. I was watching Brother Jay Smith. I was driving from Minnesota coming down last 3 days ago, and to home, Missouri. And in my trips, I listened to him. He have a 2 hours presentation. And then the Lord took me to something happened in my life when I was a little boy. And I come up with this. If we were there in the 570 to 620 33, the time of Muhammad, we would have figured out the best way to see how in the world all this put together to be what we hear today. And the Lord took me when I was a child, I maybe 13 years old, and I was visiting one of the sites in Egypt where the Orthodox Church visit every year to commemorate the visit of the Virgin Mary and baby Jesus and Joseph, all the way down to, I'm talking about a good 250 miles south of Cairo, which I personally believe Jesus never went all the way down there. When the Bible said that Joseph went to Egypt, I'm guessing guessing he was somewhere up north, just across the border of the land of Israel. But that's okay. That's not the topic. But the topic is that, my point is this. When I was there in that visit on that year, some fire started in one of the houses. And we carried the water by our own hands in buckets, and like the old way, and it was not a big fire, and we stopped it. I left there and I went back home, which is a good 40 miles trip. And within a week, the story spread all over about that great miracle which took place as the Virgin Mary herself dropped water from heaven, and the water was just perfect amount to stop the fire. No extra water in the sink. It's like, wait a minute. You cannot tell me that's a true story about the Virgin Mary stop the fire, when in reality, it is my hands, 11 years old, and my eyes seeing how the thing happened. Two different completely stories, and that happened in a few days. Imagine with me, something was invented 100 years later, 200 years later, and you can make whatever you want doing it, because nobody's going to argue with you, because nobody was there, and people will believe whatever they hear. So when you come up with the story of Muhammad, you come up with the story of the Quran, you come up with all these stories, when in reality, I doubt any of it was true. I doubt. And I do not know what my brother JC is talking about, because I hate to say that I'm not very smart to know all these wonderful foreigners. I say foreigners because they're not from the Middle East, talk about Islam and their great projects. The more I listen to some of these Westerners, the more I know that, man, there's too much I need to learn. Just to listen to Jay Smith, even though I know him, God's my witness. Lloyd, I know Jay Smith 16 years ago. Him and myself were speaking in Toronto in one conference there, but I never gave this man any attention. I never listened to what he's talking about. It seemed to me like he was a little bit strange. Some, guy speaking funny English. Yeah. But I wish I have followed him the last 15 years. Maybe I'll be much smarter than what I am today. But anyway, so that is what I get out of it. Yeah, they made up so many wonderful stories about Muhammad, and they made up this great, unbelievable belief about the Quran, when in reality, the more I investigate it, it's an empty book. It's a ridiculous empty book. Anyway, that's the story for today.
Yeah. So, but you'll learn a lot more, maybe a little bit tonight and on Friday, about what the Quranic Inquisition does. And well, I guess we're all part of this Inquisition. So but let's dive into today's talk. So welcome everyone. Thanks all for being here. Right, nice to see everyone. So we are going to be doing chapter 17, the story of Joshua. I had to edit your because it actually said here the story of it actually had the wrong chapter. It actually said the story of someone else.
What do you mean somebody else?
Yeah, it actually had Joseph. It actually had a typo. So the story of Joshua, when you got here, it actually said the story of Joseph. I had to edit the PDF. There's an error in the PDF.
Because in my hand here is Joshua.
My one said yeah, no, but the PDF you said Joseph. I had to edit this myself.
It was an error. Well, I'm glad you caught it, man. But you only fixed it in yours, not in the rest.
Anyway. Yeah, that's the paid service, That's so welcome everyone. So let's dive into this one, chapter 17, the story of Joshua. So who was Joshua? Briefly, Usama.
According to Allah in the Quran, nothing. We know that all what Muhammad said in the Quran, or those who wrote the Quran, the servant of Moses, the Fata, the young man. A Fata is like a good 12, 13, 14 years old. He used to walk with grandpa Moses. That's all.
Joshua made the sun stand still, right?
Well, it's in the Bible, yes. We know a lot about Joshua in the Bible, but in Islam, we're talking about the story of Joshua in the Quran, according to the scholars of Islam, Ibn Kathir. So they're going to make up a story about nothing. Literally, it's going to be lots of copying from the Bible.
Because I know where the Quran gets the story of Joshua, because you see, there's the story of Joshua in the Bible who makes the sun stand still. But in Louisiana, there's a story of a guy called Joshua who makes the moon shine. and Islam for moon, and they were like, yeah, we're with that.
Yes. Yeah, but if you think about Joshua and the fairy tale in Quran chapter 18, when Moses met with the green prophet, that's one part. Joshua is also mentioned in Quran chapter 5, verse 25, if I remember. That is when he and the other guy, there are two of them who believe that Allah can give them the land of Canaan. I mean, there's no information about Joshua in the Quran, period. Let me put it this way. So whatever you're going to read here, it's going to be a great invention of Ibn Kathir or simply copying from other sources.
Right, let's dive in and depress ourselves, or at least I'm going to depress myself.
Yes, indeed.
So, guys, next week, if I don't have a show, it's because I'm faking my death to avoid talking about this book.
Blame you, Usama, now. Yeah, blame me and this poor book. Go ahead.
Let's dive in and learn about the Quran and the Tafsir as we dive into the Tafsir and its comedy. So Ibn Kathir stated that he was Yosha ibn Ephraim, or Ephraim, which was the wrong name, for he meant Joshua, who was the son of Joseph, son of Isaac, son of Abraham. Then he said, according to the people of the book, he was Joshua, the cousin of Hud. Obviously, Ibn Kathir.
Wait. Does the people of the book believe in Prophet Hud? Is it a problem?
They do. It's because that's because the the Quran obviously is talking about Robin Hood, who's clearly
Robin Hood. Yeah. I remember watching that movie about Robin Hood.
He was a bold, brave man who, but the Quranic Hood is different from Robin Hood because Robin Hood would steal from the rich and he gave to the poor. The Islamic Hood stole from the rich and that was it.
And actually, he stole from the poor too. He stole from everybody, poor or rich.
Okay, he just stole. Okay, great. So there you go. So there's very similar. You can see that it's almost the same person. So obviously, Ibn Kathir, as in the case of Muhammad concerning such names, took no heed of historical timelines. Ibn Kathir thought Joshua to be the grandson of Joseph, who was the grandson of Isaac, son of Abraham, which is an error. In the Bible, we discover that Joshua and Joseph were there for 400 years, not just one generation. The error results from the silence in the scriptures of what happened during the intervening years. So there were 400 years of silence in the Bible while the Jews lived in Egypt.
Actually, it was not very silent. I can hear them walking for 40 years in the desert until they cross the river. And there is plenty of judges who ruled over them. Muhammad did not know anything about the period of judges, which is how God was the king over Israel, the one true king, until we get to the last judge, who is also a prophet, Samuel. And that is the man who served the Jewish people until in his old age. He had two sons who were not very godly sons. And then the Jewish people told him, we want to be like everybody else. We want to have our own king. And obviously, Samuel was upset about it. And God said, why you're upset? They did not reject you. They rejected me. I am the king of Israel. Gives them a king. And that's when we found out the first king, King Saul, and then the second king, King David. But all these 400 years, we call it silent. It's not a silent years. It's a silent for Muhammad. It's a silent for Muslim scholars because he did not bother to read.
They had no idea how to properly read and understand. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So scholars like Ibn Kathir don't read between the lines of scripture. I mean, they don't exegete it very well. Read in the last verse of Genesis 50 that Joseph died when he was 110. He was mummified, put into a coffin in Egypt. He had seen in his life the third generation born to his sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. So hold on. So Joseph's son is called Ephraim, and somehow Ibn Kathir thought he was his son.
Yeah. Well, because there is no timeline in Islam. Literally, if you think about it, Jesus was a nephew of Moses. You know, think about it. Jesus grew up, Isa, son of Mary, grew up calling his uncle Moses and uncle Aaron too. You know, so you put 1,500 years in one step. You lost 1,500 years in a story in the Quran. You can lose any hundreds of years in anywhere else. It's a comedy.
If these anachronisms, as scholars politely call them, are so blatant, are so obvious, why don't scholars, biblical scholars, call it out? I mean, this again is cowardice. It is negligence by scholars who should say, hold on, that is clearly a serious, egregious error.
Do you know what it bothered me, Lloyd? When I went to seminary here in the largest school in America, I have to fight with two of my professors to write two papers on topics have something to do with Islam. They do not teach about Islam. They do not investigate Islam. I'm talking about the scholars of the largest church in America, the Southern Baptist. And when I tried to do a paper, I discovered that they are not interested for me to expose some of the errors or some of the lies on Islam. He could not actually see that what I'm about to teach is true. One of them was about where the Arabs came from, because that professor believed Arabs are descendants of Ishmael. I said, no, Ishmaelites have nothing to do with Arab. And I did my paper and I proved my point. Believe it or not, I just found out from my brother who was in England, 30 some years ago, he tried to do the same thing. He wrote the paper, and the paper was thrown in a desk of his professor in England, who is not interested to learn something about Islam. We, the people in the Middle East, when we go to the West, and we are excited about going to the West, and now we're going to work with the scholars, with the theologians, with the smart, wise one who can get our point out, and they will actually approve and make it better. I mean, fix out our paper, our writing. No, they're not interested. I mean, who care about what the Quran says about what, or who Mohammedans believe about whatever? So it seemed to me that it's backwards. I thought when I asked my professor to write the videos, oh, Usama, let me tell you, so and so and so and so here have wrote about it. Here, take their writings and dig deep and give me more. No, my professor was not interested. Not once, two professors were not interested for me to dig into Islam. And that is sad. That is very sad.
Yep, definitely so. In the Exodus, Moses wrote the names of the sons of Jacob who came to Egypt. He said there were 70 souls that came out of the loins of Jacob. He mentions the death of Joseph and all his brothers. And here's what is written, which Ibn Kathir and other Muslim scholars missed. But the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, multiplied and grew exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. So we have to ask a question. What was the length of time that it took for this to be fulfilled? The answer is in the Bible, 400 years. So Joshua cannot be the grandson of Joseph, because Joshua existed more than 300 years after Joseph's death. Ubi. So that's Quranic maths.
It's not, by the way, it's not just in here. It's everywhere else. When it comes to math or numbers, Muhammad's completely off. Once in a while, he gives us the right number, but he does not know what is in the right number. I mean, 40 years. Yep, he mentioned 40 years. But what happened in the 40 years as they circling the Jewish people out of Egypt in the desert west of the Jordan River before they crossed to the Promised Land? We do nothing. We don't even know about their land, which they inherited in the east side of the Jordan River. And it's like they don't know. And they and their people don't know. I mean, literally. And I just discovered from Brother Yusuf recently here that Muslims do not even read Ibn Kathir like you and I are studying Ibn Kathir writings. Most Muslims do not know anything about anything. These are the Arabs, the 13% who can read such writing. As with the other 87%, well, good luck.
Right.
The Muslim world exists because of ignorance. If you teach them something about Islam, most likely they will leave Islam. Most likely.
That's interesting. I was watching Joshua Phillip on his show, Crossroads, and he says that he's spoken to a number of people who are communists and were members of the Communist Party, and he spoke to them and sat down and gave them a talk on the evil of the Communist Party and how many people Mao Zedong killed and the methods. And he says they all left the Communist Party because he says once people are given the truth, at least certain people, they leave because they realize what they had as in their heads as true was completely false.
You're absolutely right, and he's absolutely right. Most Muslims I know personally who left Islam, they left Islam because they learned the truth about Islam.
Right. So of course we know in the Bible it says, God said to Abram, know that certainly your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and will serve them, which means they were slaves, and they will afflict them for 400 years. And also the nation whom they serve, I will judge. Afterward, they shall come out with great possessions. So,
And by the way, Muslims are so smart about digging the scripture. I'm not sure if I wrote about here or not, because I have not read the chapter since I wrote it. But they will mark the Bible and tell you there's an error in the Bible. Why? Because if you look at the actual time the children of Israel stayed in Egypt, it was actually 430 years. But God told Abraham they will be in Egypt 400 years. So there's an error there, 30 years error. Not realizing, if you listen carefully to the word of God, to Abraham, he said they will be slave in the land of Egypt 400 years. Not they will live in Egypt 430 years. They will be slave. They will be persecuted. They will be humiliated. They will be disgraced for 400 years. Not how long they lived there. And if you study the history of the first portion of when they came to Egypt, the children of Jacob, the 70 plus obviously Jacob is 71, Joseph 72, Manasseh and Ephraim 74. That's the total number of the men who came to Egypt. Then that's all of them. Not like Allah said in the Quran, some, or some scholars say some. But anyway, so they were in Egypt for 30 years living in the land of Goshen. That is the Delta. That's the best piece of land in Egypt. And not that only, they were actually did not pay, they did not sell their land for Joseph to get food for the third and the fourth and the fifth and 16th. The Egyptian sold their land, sold their animals, sold themselves. That Pharaoh have to move them from one place to another, so they no longer own their own land for the food. But the family of Joseph were living in a very high position. They were like the prince families. They're like the Pharaoh, like the priest of Egypt who did not sell anything. So they were respected, loved, honored for 30 years until Joseph died. And then obviously things changed. For the new Pharaoh who came to power, he did not know Joseph, nor the God of Joseph, nor the family of Joseph. And that's where you see jealousy. They were growing, they were prospering, they owned so much land and animals and everything, while the Egyptians have nothing, because they sold everything to Pharaoh. So you see here, that's one of the reasons you can figure out why they were hated in Egypt, why the new Pharaoh start abusing these people and try to do everything they can, until you get to Moses' days, where they are actually now killing the baby boys. They don't want them to grow anymore. They're going to be a problem. If they ever join any other country against Egypt, the Pharaoh will lose their position. So, but this information you can only read in the Bible. You will never find in the Quran or in the writing of so-called Muslim scholars, because they will not bother to dig deep to know what the Bible teach about Joshua, where it come from, as we see here in our book.
Right.
May
So
I,
the reason for
may I make an observation with Ibn Kathir? So I think Ibn Kathir appears something like 600-700 years after the time of Muhammad. So there was more time between Muhammad and Ibn Kathir than there was between Jesus and Muhammad. So I would have thought that the early Muslim scholars, they would have actually sat down and thought, okay, so we have the last prophet. Let's go through all of the previous scriptures. Let's figure out what is correct, what has been corrupted, and then to know exactly what the story was. But it looks like 700 years after the time of Muhammad, Ibn Kathir is making things up, as opposed to saying, no, we've been studying this for 700 years. We know every single piece of the jigsaw. It's almost like he's making it up on the fly after 700 years. It's bizarre.
And you're absolutely right. You're absolutely. And the sad thing, Muslims do not know when did Ibn Kathir live. If you talk to Muslims, they say Ibn Kathir was there. Even when you read some of the writing of Ibn Kathir about Moses or about Adam, you think that Ibn Kathir was living with Adam. He was living with Moses. He was living, he gave you more details in his writing as somebody who literally was eyewitness to everything is happening. So it's very silly. It's very ridiculous.
Right. Yeah, and then for you can do it too. Is Abraham ever called Abram in any Islamic writings? No, right? Not at all.
Nope.
We covered that
Not
last
one.
week, I think.
Yeah. It is sad because, once again, Ibn Kathir picked up some information. When it comes to Abraham, which we finished yet, thank God for that, he actually depended a lot on the Talmud and the legend of the Jews in the Bible. I don't see how much he picked up from the Bible.
Right. So Ibn Kathir, besides the 700-year gap, as we just learned, is that he was trying to make a story out of nothing, for there's no mention of Joshua in the entire Quran. All that is written are the words, his young man. This is found in Quran 18, verse 60.
When you say young men in English, what is the age for young men in English?
A young man, I don't know, 18, 19, 17?
I made a mistake here in my writing. It's supposed to be Feta. Feta is 12, 13, 14. That's all what we know.
Young boy, a boy.
An early teenager. How about
adolescent, that? Yeah. So when Moses said to his young man, and that sounds a little, Moses said to his little boy toy, kind of comes across. Yeah. And Moses said to his young man. So how can you get such a long story from just 3 words? The story of Moses and his young man and the whale. What? The one where they were traveling and forgot their whale, their lunch, was made up. This is a comedy. Okay, we covered that in Moses. And when comparing this we'll still get to Moses. When comparing this information to the biblical account, we discover there are 24 chapters in the book of Joshua, but there are 3 words in the Quran. So Joshua exists through the early pages of the Bible. His name is found in Exodus, Numbers, Leviticus, and Deuteroscopy. 228 verses refer to Joshua. And of course, the reader the listener in this case, can read the book and see more, read the Bible. Ibn Kathir claimed that the people of the book said that he was the cousin of Hud. We don't know if it's, I think there's, Usama, in English, there's Robin Hood, right? His name is Robin. But in Islam, his name is Robbing Hood. He's robbing the hood.
Well, but he actually, in the story, the invented story of Muhammad about Hud, Prophet Hud and his people, they were not stealing. The only one who is stealing is Muhammad. None of the prophets he made up in the Quran, like Shaib and Hud and Salih.
So Muhammad is just taking off to the prophet called Robin Hood.
Yeah, it is Muhammad, Robin Hood, but I don't see any of the other prophets in the Quran ever rob anybody. Only Muhammad is the one who robbed everybody.
So who the heck is Hud? I mean, we covered the book of Hud and we still don't know who Hud is, right?
Well, like you don't know anything about Josh you read about right now. I challenge you. Tell me, how about what Allah said in the Quran about Josh? When Allah said nothing, how much you know about him except nothing?
Yes, how can we be sure that his young man is actually Joshua, not somebody else?
It could be anybody. It could be Joe Smith.
Are you saying?
Yeah, we lost Lloyd again. I think he had some problem with his internet. Hey, maybe you and I can take over the show. Oh, my world. I am back, and the book is back. And here, we're all back. What is wrong with your internet today?
It's not my internet. I think it's a case of, I paid the bill, I promise. But I think it's that internet outage from yesterday.
Help you out, but I'm glad you paid it. Save my money. Go ahead. What else?
I think we had just been very briefly abrogated by Jibril.
Allah works in mysterious ways, right? Don't forget.
So now the new verses, according to Prophet Gabriel, Angel Gabriel. Yeah.
According to my internet speed test, I'm getting 900 megabit down right now. So things are looking positive, over 930. Okay, so Ibn Kathir continues in his book, quoting from the Hadith, that the people of the book agreed that Joshua was a prophet. However, a group of them who were called the Samaritans did not believe anyone except Joshua, who came after Moses, was a prophet.
Help me, Lord Jesus, help me. You see how Ibn Kathir is stupid? He really very stupid. He does not even know where the Samaritan. Well, according to the Quran, the Samaritan lived in Moses' days, because remember, the Samaritan made the calf out of gold for the Jewish people to worship. So obviously, there was Samaritan there at the time, but not in the biblical account. Okay, keep going, man. I don't know.
Jewish Villainous just says there were no merry men because alcohol is banned, so they couldn't have been. So therefore, it couldn't have been Robin Hood. Therefore, it was Robbing Hood. So there we go. We figured that. A mystery is solved. But of course,
Inshallah.
the curses of Allah were upon them until the day of resurrection. Ibn Kathir said that Ibn Jarir said, so in other words, he's saying, don't blame me, I'm getting it from that guy. As when
Ibn
Moses
Jarir.
used to meet with Joshua and ask him, I remember when Moses used to meet with Ronald McDonald, and he said, Ronald, how come there's no McDonald's where we are? We're hungry sometimes. We want to kick back. The kids want to go play in the little play thingy. We want some fast food.
French fries, hamburgers, chicken sandwiches, crispy one.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we want some good American food. And so Moses used to talk to a lot of people. And so Moses met with Joshua and asked him, what is the new command and forbidden things Allah has given to you? So Joshua answered, when Allah used to reveal to you, I did not ask you until you told me yourself. What?
You see, Abullah Joshua, why did you get involved in my prophethood and what Allah revealed to me when I did not bother you? I never asked you. Have I ever asked you? What did Allah reveal to you? No. Why you asked me? See, it's a very polite way to say, none of your business.
And Moses hated life and he loved death. He wanted to die.
Oh, my word. You're going to commit suicide. Oh.
No, because Ibn Kathir had one of the diaries of Moses. True story.
He did.
He found a diary. Yeah. It's unfortunately it was lost with the Injil, but
You mean we don't have access to it anymore?
no, it was lost with the Injil. I mean, don't forget that if you read the Sirah, the bodies of Peter and Paul were preserved in glass up until like 700 AD in Rome in the cathedral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened to the body of Paul? I saw they also talk about Paul. What's wrong with Paul?
Allah knows best.
Oh, okay. No, that's a great answer.
So Ibn Kathir contradicts himself in the story by stating there was doubt in that deed. For Moses used to receive revelation until Allah caused him to die, as we saw in the story of Moses. So Ibn Kathir quoted the Bible by stating the following. It is written in the third portion. Yeah, it's written on the other page. Yeah, that's so precise in the Quran. He meant the third book,
the one which between the other two portions. You see, it's the one in the middle. Okay, go ahead.
Then came the Makmuta. It is written in Leviticus that a law commanded Moses and Aaron to prepare the children of Israel and appoint a prince or a captain over each one of the 12 tribes so they could prepare to fight after they got out of the wilderness in which they were lost. This was near the end of the 40 years. Ibn Kathir said this was similar to the case of Muhammad when he prepared the army of Usama to fight the people of the book, as is written in Quran 9:29. Engage in war with those who do not believe in Allah, nor in the last day, nor forbid what Allah and His Messenger forbid, nor believe in the religion of the truth, among those who have been given the book until they pay the jizya out of hand and are humiliated. So Muhammad prepared the army of Osama. Osama died, and now he's on my channel. And his best friend...
No. You talk about Osama, not Bin Laden, not Usama Dakdok, not Osama ibn Zayd. That is the real Osama, the first one.
Is this all still from 3 words in the Quran?
What do you mean?
Because Villainous is asking, is this still from just 3 words in the Quran? He's young man.
Well, I'm not finished yet. We're page 2. We still have 4 more pages to read. Relax, brother. Relax. Take it easy. You'll be surprised. Muslim scholars can make a chapter of 20, 30 pages out of 1 word. These are 3 words.
So if I gave Ibn Kathir a piece of bubble gum and a piece of tissue paper, he could make a 5-course meal.
Yes, indeed. You can make a volume of materials. Yep, indeed. Go ahead.
He was paid by the hour.
Yeah. give me paper. Give me more ink. Give me more ink. I'll write you more. Okay.
Yeah, so Muhammad prepared the army of Osama. Osama died of shame and embarrassment, no doubt. And his best friend and father-in-law, the first caliph, Abu Bakr, prepared the army, and he sent them to invade the land of Byzantine. He continued by quoting the Quran 5:12, and indeed Allah took a covenant with the children of Israel, and out of them raised up 12 chiefs. And Allah said, surely I am with you if you perform the prayer and brought the legal arms and believed in my messengers. And Azara,
that is a word I study. I spent literally a good 15 minutes and I got tired of it. Hadra. Here he said help. According to, I believe, Ibn Kathir here. Ibn Kathir. But it could be also spank, discipline, beat somebody, not to death. I mean, a little bit death. Or more, maybe honor somebody, or maybe it could be anything. It could be have 17 different meanings. So, but I chose help because I'm being faithful to quote Ibn Kathir writings. Oh, we're good.
Wow. Yes, he says, and you bring help, and then you help them and lend Allah a good loan. If you give me a good loan,
Allah open a bank account, give you 8%. 8%
guys,
interest.
Allah needs a little bit of money, okay? So just, I will surely atone for your evils and will admit you into gardens. Sorry?
I'm calling this, if they are asking you for a loan, it's a scam.
Yes. Well, listen. My bank only give me 0.5%. Allah give 8%. I go for 8%. Okay.
Righto. And so you'll be admitted into gardens with the rivers below. And so whoever of you becomes an infidel after that, he has gone astray. So Ibn Kathir says that this verse states that Allah said to them, if they did what they were commanded, fight or engage in war, and don't retreat from the war, Allah would make the good deed of this war as a propitiation to what had fallen on them from atonement from previous punishments. So Ibn Kathir says, well, if you kill for Allah, Allah will give you the thumbs up.
Amen. Mm-hmm.
And he compared Muhammad and his talk to his Muslim followers in the Quran to that of which he claims took place between Allah and the children of Israel. Aha! So Allah had told the Jews to go killing everybody too, apparently.
True. It's there. Quran chapter 5, verse 20 to 26. It's the source of the story. And here it is in verse 12, Quran chapter 5. I mean, it's all over, man. It's all over.
So you'll be called to face a people of substantial, mighty valor. So in Quran 48:16, Muhammad claimed that Allah said in the Quran, say to those Bedouins who lagged behind in battle, those lazy, cowardly Bedouins, you will face a people of substantial, mighty valor that you must deal with. You will engage in war against them or they will become Muslims. So if you obey, Allah will give you a good wage. And if you turn away as you turned away before, he will torment you with a painful torment.
You don't want to be tormented by Allah, that painful one.
So apparently they'd said the same in Quran 5:12. If you become an infidel, you've gone astray. So apparently, okay, fine. Allah condemned them for their evil deed, as he also condemned the Christians after them for the difference in their beliefs. And Ibn Kathir said that Allah commanded Moses to write down the names of the fighters from the children of Israel. Those who could carry the arms were 20 years or older. He put an officer over each one of the tribes. Then he mentioned the 12 tribes by their names, the number of fighters and the name of the officer over each tribe. Of course, he copied this from the Bible, and this came directly from the book of Numbers in chapter 1. And as usual, he included lots of errors. Why am I surprised by this? I thought he was a great Islamic scholar.
Me too.
So the leaders in those 20 years and older, whom Moses counted in Numbers 1, had died. Oh, they were dead. So the army of the dead. So this is Lord of the Rings. This is where Lord of the Rings got it from, the army of the dead. You know, the Quran is responsible for everything. And they could not go with Joshua to fight and take the promised land. Then there was no such thing as the tribe of Joseph. Yeah, because the sons of Ephraim were considered to be a tribe of themselves, and the sons of Manasseh were also a separate tribe. Levi's tribe was not counted among those who went to fight. They dwelled at the tabernacle. Those were the priests. They took over the work of the ministry of the house of the Lord. So this is an error. And
for somebody to say Ibn Kathir is a scholar, I say you must be a dumber. Because you cannot be a scholar when you make one error after another error after another. It's a chain of errors of his writing about every story he talked about in the entirety of his books, the beginning and the end, the story of the prophets. I mean, literally, I could not figure out how in the world do you call such a man a scholar? A scholar of what? Scholar does not know anything, start his interpretation by they disagree, and end and Allah knows best. That's not scholar. I mean, look about that. Here he make Levi one of the tribe who fought, which they never fought, and he made a tribe of Joseph when it's supposed to be two tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh. This is a symbol. I learned that when I was a little boy, 19 years old, in the Sunday school class in Egypt. How can a scholar of Islam does not know these simple facts? I mean, I'm sorry. When people look at him as a great scholar, I said, you must be stupid. But keep going. Go ahead.
Right. So, as for making Joshua the leader of the tribe of Joseph, Ibn Kathir tied this error to his previous lines. Joseph had two sons who founded two tribes. The leader of the children of Ephraim was Elishama, the son of Amihud. The leader of the children of Manasseh was Gamaliel, the son of Pedazur. Ibn Kathir added the name of another tribe called Mesha, claiming that the number was 30.
The word Mashallah.
Mashallah.
Exactly. Mashallah. It come out of that tribe. Yeah.
And their number was 31,200. Are you sure it wasn't 31,203 quarters? This is
No, it was exactly 200 because there was one was 201 and he was sick and he died as they were counting. I remember that happened in the afternoon after a long 3 hour of heavy rain.
And the leader was Gamaliel. Okay, great. So that's very accurate. The son of Pedazur, who happened to be the leader of the tribe of Manasseh. But the number of those who belonged to this tribe was not that number, as Ibn Kathir stated, but 32,200. Ibn Kathir said there were errors in the totals of the number of men who were 20 years and older, for he stated that the total of those who fought, except the children of Levi were 571,656. But he then said that some of the children of Israel was 603,000, and Allah knows best.
See? Allah knows best. Allah Alam. You're okay. You're cool. Don't worry about it.
So Ibn Kathir ends the book by stating this is the text of their book, which is in their hand. And Allah knows best, but this was a lie, as we've already seen. This information was not in the Bible. It's copied and mixed with error. So Ibn Kathir is supposedly writing on these pages the story of Prophet Joshua. So far, he has told us hardly anything about Joshua, and what he did write is kind of wrong. And he goes on to another story, which has nothing to do with Joshua. He says Ibn Ishaq claimed that Moses was the one who invaded the holy house, Jerusalem. What?
I'm telling you, he's a great scholar, man.
Gamaliel Gargamel. I'm starting to see this is a tie-in with the Smurfs. So this is like either launched the Smurfs or the Smurfs launched this story. It's a spin-off. Masala. Oh, it could be a recipe. It could be a recipe.
Masala. MashaAllah, not masala.
This is, I'm sorry, but this is retarded. Again, this is just
because they don't know. And what Muslims know, it come out of a man who does not know, who they just gave the title scholar. So it's at the end of the story. I mean, what are you going to believe? A corrupt Bible or Ibn Kathir? Come on, man. Logic, common sense. Ibn Kathir knows much better and more truthful than that which you read in the pages of the Bible, because the Bible has been corrupted.
Right. Pity they didn't keep a copy of that Bible that was in their hands at the time, right? Pity they just forgot to hold on to it.
I know. Oh, well.
I mean, they preserved the Quran. Now, okay, fine. They don't have an actual first century copy of Muhammad's Quran. And in fact, they don't even have a copy of Uthman's Quran. And they don't even have a whole copy of the Quran that came after that. But pity they didn't.
Hey, listen. I still have 2 more places here in my property. I'm going to look for the original Bible. If I find the original Bible, I will give you a call.
Are there any accounts of what documents Ibn Kathir had? Because obviously he has a lot of information from the Bible, but he seems to be getting everything wrong. So it's almost like he's going to somebody in the market square, they're giving him some information, and then he goes, he's misremembering things and writing the best he remembers. Like, has he got the Bible or not? It's kind of weird.
Or they're giving him bad info and he doesn't know any better.
Yeah. Let me give you some worse news. Do you know how many copies of the work of Ibn Kathir we have today in the Arabic language? Literally, I have one. Yusuf have one, I believe, different than my brother have one. We got 3 copies in the Arabic language of Ibn Kathir. What we have to do is called muhakkak, which means somebody went in the writing of Ibn Kathir and corrected it. We got 3 different copies of the same book of Ibn Kathir in the Arabic language between 3 of us as we do our broadcast on Friday nights in the Arabic language. Just use imagination. How about somebody give us the original writings of Ibn Kathir? We don't have the original writing of Ibn Kathir.
Did he have a Bible? I mean, where's he getting these stories? I mean, did he like have a part of a Bible, a couple of books of the Bible? Some guy who said once he read the Bible? What?
But 600 years after Muhammad, I guarantee you, if he want to have access to the Bible, he would. And the proof is very simple. He copied a lot of stuff from the Bible. We actually have internal evidence that some of the stuff he wrote, he took word for word from the Bible. And not just any Bible. It was actually the late writing of the Arabic Bible, which means the muhaqqaq, the one who corrected Ibn Kathir writing, also added to Ibn Kathir writings by quoting the Arabic Bible, which we use in Egypt. Which means some of this writing is literally written less than 100 years ago. Ibn Kathir writing have material from a Bible was translated to the Arabic language 100 years ago. And Ibn Kathir lived 700 years before that Arabic Bible was translated. Help me out.
And time travel go together like a horse and carriage. JC, what do you think of that?
I think it sounds like we not only have lots of versions of the Quran, but now we have lots of versions of Ibn Kathir. The whole thing is just a mess.
Brother, I'm not kidding. As we dig deep in the Arabic writing of Ibn Kathir, he is quoting Bible verses in the Arabic language, which was translated 100 years ago. And that is 700 years after Ibn Kathir died.
So Ibn Kathir's present day writings are actually edited a century ago.
They editing his work in the new print, which we have in our hand today, Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, the beginning and the end.
Seriously, JC, we need to look into this.
You know what? All I need is money and time. All I need is money and time. I can dig deep into Islam and destroy it, even by the writings of those so-called scholars like Ibn Kathir.
I mean, do we have even originals of Ibn Kathir's? Because look, I mean, we don't even have copies originally of, I think, of Da'if Bukhari, right? So do we have originals of Ibn Kathir?
But why Bukhari only gave us less than 2% of what Muhammad said? Why Muslim gave us less than 2% of what Muhammad said? That does not make any sense.
Well, think about it. Bukhari preserved, apparently he read 2 million hadiths, right? Right. Apparently, the story goes, well, he read 600,000 hadiths. Okay, let's say he read 500,000, right? That's the story. Now we know there's over 1 million fragments of the New Testament floating around, and you can reconstruct the Bible several times over from that. The Quran is a tiny book. If there are hundreds of thousands of hadiths, shouldn't you be able to reconstruct Muhammad's life and the entire Quran from the fragments that supposedly exist?
But what if all that which is written about Muhammad was made up hundreds of years later and no evidence that Muhammad ever said?
Ibn Kathir could well have been written partly in the 14th century or whatever, and then partly in the 19th century, 20th century.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible if that is the case.
The chance for Ibn Kathir to quote Arabic Bible verses word for word as it is written in the actual translation, which we have in our hand today, is not a miracle. It is beyond a miracle. There's zero chance unless somebody tell me he came back to life and he added his own writings and he went back to sleep in his tomb. I don't know.
Yeah, Protestant believer says the language we find in the Quran suggests 16th century. What do you think of that?
Well, we gave enough evidence of that. I mean, use the word dirhams, use money paper,
chainmail.
Chainmail. I mean, yeah.
And chainmail is what, a 10th, 11th century invention? The Quran mentions it. So either it's predicting the future or it's talking about the past, which means it's post-11th, post-12th century.
That's not prophecy for the future. That is new verses added to the Quran in the future, added to that which was written before. The chance for Muhammad to use the word money paper in Quran chapter 18 about these young men who slept in the cave for 309 years. When you read the story, read money paper. Warakakum, this paper, and discuss it money. Or when you go to Joseph's time and use dirhams. as the money instead of silver. That is unbelievable. That is like, wow. How can you do these errors in the Quran unless somebody wrote the Quran later? Just think about it. Use the word Holy Land. Quran chapter 5 verse 20 enters the Holy Land, when in reality everybody knows that it was named in Moses' days the Promised Land. The Holy Land was the first century after Christ. How can you move 1500 years using a word for a piece of land which is a new name in Moses' days? It does not make any sense. There's somebody played in the Quran. The Quran was not written according to Moses in Moses' timing, according to this story here and that story here and that story here. Somebody played around later, and he mixed all this up and make us this beautiful Quran which we have today.
There is one word in the Quran, which maybe I got it completely wrong, but it always bothered me that the Quran says God or Allah taught by the pen. And I always thought, hang on a minute, the pen. And I just, I Googled it, and ChatGPT and stuff told me it actually means pen, like now in English, as in ink pen. And even though they did exist, I think the invention is from 3000 BC, they were exceptionally rare. So I always looked at those verses thinking, shouldn't this say who taught by the quill? That would be the common way of actually writing. But that word pen always kind of sticks out. Maybe it's absolutely fine, but I just feel like it's a little bit odd.
Yeah, pen is a modern invention, whereas the quill or something, you're right, the ink pot, it should have some kind of reference to that.
Yeah. Is there plenty? The more we dig in the Quran, the more we know the words, verbs, and nouns and stuff is written throughout the pages of the Quran.
I mean, is it because of the English translation where the translator uses a modern metaphor that he puts it back in Arabic?
قلم. علم الإنسان بالقلم. علم ما لا يعلم بالقلم. With pen, not pencil, not a piece of wood, not a feather of a bird.
There's some, man, it is so easy to find problems no matter where we look in the Quran. Why, the negligence of modern scholars is just beyond me.
And the best thing is you should never read the Quran to ask questions. When you start ask questions, you find errors. Otherwise, if you read it blindly, like almost every Muslims who know how to read, then you're fine. There's nothing wrong with the Quran. Don't ask, man. Just move on.
Yeah, but you know what is the best part of it? That if you read the Quran and then you find problems, Muslims will tell you, go to Ibn Kathir. He will explain it for you.
Oh my God, help me. Please don't tell me, brother. They tell me, you could not understand the Quran by yourself. You need Ibn Kathir and you need the scholars of Islam. And I said, why do I need to go to some dumb to teach me something? I know much better than Ibn Kathir can ever know. I'm not bragging about myself. As a matter of fact, if I put half of my brain behind my back, I will be more scholars than Ibn Kathir can ever be. And
well, but anyway, we've got here, Ibn Kathir says that Ibn Ishaq claimed that Moses invaded the holy house, Jerusalem. So Moses went to Jerusalem, but Ibn Kathir said, no. It was actually Joshua who went to Jerusalem.
How did he know?
Why
Ibn Kathir reject what Ibn Isaac said? I mean, who's more closer to Muhammad, Ibn Isaac or Ibn Kathir or anybody else? I mean, I would trust Ibn Isaac more than trust Ibn Kathir.
Yeah. Now, there's definitely lots of gatekeeping going on. I've actually been meaning to do a response to Gabriel Reynolds, who did a video recently called "Should Christians Be Afraid of the Sharia?" And he does a very inoffensive introduction to the Sharia, and it's very
Here's my answer to him. Why Muslims in Egypt hate Sharia? Why Muslims in Egypt stand in solidarity a few years ago when Muslim Brotherhood took over my country and they said no to Sharia?
Well,
he worried about Christians?
He approached it in a very inoffensive manner. And I wrote a long response on X to him, several responses. I said, look, what about these things in the Sharia? And I got no response. And I was thinking making a video response and saying, look, if you'd like to sit down and discuss, these are also in the Sharia. Should Christians be afraid of these things we find, as opposed to, these mild little academic anecdotes you provided? So, but that's something I'll probably tackle soon. But it's just,
Sharia is a savage cult. Sharia is a savage laws, cannot be practiced except in the 6th centuries. You could not practice Sharia in the 8th century or in anything after that, because it does not fit with modern life. When we get out of the stupidity of the way of life among Muslims in such early couple hundred years of Muhammad days, it's just unbelievable. These people make me angry. I could not talk to people like that.
Yeah, as a scholar, he must know better, but I don't know.
I'll tell him, is it okay? This is a simple question. Is it okay for me to kill you so I can rape your wife and your daughter? Are you upset with that? Would this make you have any worry about the future of your beloved wife? I'll treat her with respect, man. I will raise lots of good Christian babies out of her, and so is your daughter. By the way, if your granddaughter is 9, I will also have sex with her. I will raise babies out of your grandbaby. That's okay with you? Since they talk about Sharia as there's nothing wrong in Sharia, when there's nothing right in Sharia.
Why doesn't he open a book and say, well, the Sharia, he doesn't want the controversy, he doesn't want the grief, he doesn't want the attention. It's simple. It's how it is. It's how it is.
Yeah. And by the way, people like that will never go to what Sharia is, period.
Well, I do it on this channel, and you know what? It doesn't make people happy.
Yeah. Well, it's too sad.
So Ibn Ishaq mentions that on their way to Jerusalem, the story of Balaam ibn Beor. What the hell? Balaam is in there?
What? Because you need to talk about you need to talk about Joshua. You have nothing about Joshua. Not even his name is mentioned, and you need to write a few pages about Joshua so you can prove to the Muslim gullible readers that you're a scholar. So he's going to move anywhere. It doesn't matter. You go to Balaam, go to Balaam and the donkey. Go ahead, tell me what he said.
So he had 3 verses from the Quran, from chapter 7, which have nothing to do, it seems, with Balaam. The verses state, and recite to them the news of him to whom we gave our verses. So he departed from it, so that Satan followed him. So he was of the seduced. And if we will, we would lift him up with it. But he clung to the earth and followed his desire. So his parable is like the parable of the dog, which pants if you chase him, or pants if you leave him alone. Such is the parable of those who denied our verses. So narrate the stories, perhaps they may reflect. Evil is the likeness of those people who denied our verses, and they were treating themselves unjustly.
You see, this is a clear word of Allah about Balaam and the donkey, and exactly as Allah stated in the...
I got a revelation from Allah once. It's very similar to this one. I was walking up a mountain, and then with a friend, and then he said, hey, maybe we should see who can get there first. So we ran up, and then we got there first, and then we looked, and we were bored, and we came back down. And
I can write you now a story about the miracle of something in the Bible, and I twist it with some other miracle somewhere else, and I make a good chapter in my new book.
No, I have another one. I went to the shop, right? But it's the other shop that's on the other side of the street. And then I went to go buy the thing that I needed, and I took the one on the left.
Right. I need to write the first chapter first, then I will write the second chapter. You're gonna confuse me. You're gonna make me make mistake like Muhammad in the Quran, and I confuse stories together. Concentrate one story at a time.
And then my wife said she wanted the other thing.
Oh my world! Now he's gonna go with his wife.
So I went to the other store, and then I took the one that was on the first shelf, but on the other side. Yeah.
Was it the color one, or the round, or the square? Which one?
I mean, the one with the pleasing shape.
Oh, we don't know what shape it is. Good. MashaAllah.
So guys, I can write a verse just like Allah.
I'm not kidding you. If somebody can come and tell me what these 4 verses are talking about, I will accept Islam today. I will become a Muslim today.
Well, the thing is, so the Quran is the very clear book in very clear Arabic. So it's very simple that there is Moses with the young man, yes, and then there is the fish. Okay, there is the fish, and the fish escapes, and then they need to have something to eat. And then the fish is not there, so they say something, and then they have lunch. It's very clear, you see? Done.
Yeah. Praise be to Allah for this revelation.
But the problem is, it was not a fish, it was a whale. And they actually ate half of it the night before because it was cooked. And while he was praying, he does the wudu. Some of the water fall on the half whale, which is eaten, which was cooked. The whale came back to life and went back to the water. That's why we could not find the whale.
So tell me, were whales much smaller back in the Quranic days?
No, it's the word hut. It's written by
Because you know,
mistake.
young girls were much older back then.
No,
Brother,
the whale was the same size, but actually Moses and the young boy, they were massive. It was
But the
the other way
spoons were
around.
much bigger.
Yeah.
no. Hut is a word introduced to Muhammad in the Quran as they thought it means fish, when in reality it means whale. So obviously it was an error by the person who helped Muhammad write his Quran, because he does not know Arabic.
I mean,
That
this
is what
the most. What is he even saying? I mean, it's like we got the thing on the left because we had to get something, and so that other day when we were free, we took the car and we swung around at the other store, but the one on the other side, not that old one, and then we picked up the thing, but it was not on the first shelf, but on the other shelf, and then we took it and we came back, and like
the one on the east side of the mountain. That is the best detail you can get about location in the Quran.
Now I know exactly where it is.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
And these verses apparently in the Quran says that Ibn Abbas said that Balaam knew the great name, and his people asked him to curse Moses and his people. And he refused, and when they nagged him, he rode on his donkey and went to the camp of the children of Israel. So hold on. So he pants like the dog pants if you chase him, or pants if you leave him alone. And he was confused, and you lift him up, but he clung to the earth.
Actually, Allah, listen. What Allah meant by the dog is the donkey.
And so
the one who
chased them, the donkey refused to move, and Balaam kicked the donkey, so the donkey moved, and the donkey stopped moving, so he kicked the donkey harder. Excuse me, but how do you get these details from those verses?
Because you're infidel. You're a Islamophobe. You are a hateful person. If you say the Shahada, repeat after me the Shahada, everything will be clear. Trust me.
And then the donkey speaks to him, and she said, "Oh, Balaam, where do you want to go? Can't you see the angel in front of me?" How in the absolute heck do you get this detail from the story that's in the Quran?
Do you know that there's 3 verses in the Quran, actually scholars use them for 3 different prophets in 3 different locations? It was Daniel and Ezekiel and Jeremiah. The same verse. They use the same verse for 3 different prophets, depending how you look at it. But
so the donkey says, "Are you going to go to the prophet of Allah and the believers to curse them?" So he did not give up from beating the donkey. You know what? I just realized the term "beating a dead donkey" comes from the Quran. Oh my God!
For sure, here it is. I can read it. It's written. Yeah, it's written.
You know. Until they arrived at the top of the mountain, when he looked at the camp of the children of Israel, he began to curse them, but his tongue did not obey him, except to bless Moses and his people and to curse his own people. So they blamed him. He apologized by telling them his tongue could only do that. His tongue stuck out until he fell on his chest.
You ever seen the movie The Mask with and the tongue go? There's nothing good back
now. This is ridiculous.
Hey, listen, his tongue fall off, but thank God he went back. See, look, read what he said after that.
Oh, I'm sorry, but then he told his people, "Now I lost the life of this world and the hereafter, and nothing is left except cunning and deception." So Balaam ordered his people to beautify the females and send the women with goods. But there's nothing about the dog that pants.
Or Joshua, more than that, where is Joshua in the story? Hey, maybe you know what happened? I tell you what happened. I said that before. While Ibn Kathir writing his book, the wind came from some door and flipped the pages of his book, and he started writing somewhere else. And then a little bit later, the wind came back, and that's why his book is out. Or he was writing on pieces of separate paper, and there's no numbers in them. And then the wind came in, and one of his wife, picked up all the paper, put it in the best order she knew how, and then that's what we come up with the story now. It was a mixed pages because We do not know what Ibn Kathir is talking about, and I lost my thought and I lost my mind, and God help us. Go ahead. Read.
So Catherine is asking, is this the Quran or Usama's book? So Usama's book, The Revelation of Vera, is a discussion of Quran verses, the Bible, and the tafsir. So we're examining what the tafsir says about the Quran, how it explains it, and of course what the Quran itself says, and making comparisons between that, the difference of tafsir writers, especially Ibn Kathir, and of course the Bible. So we are going through the story, but from the perspective of the best Islamic scholars who clarify the Quran. And
very, very, very easy. I mean, he clarified to the point that you could not get any better interpretation than that.
JC, as an author, what are you thinking as you read this?
What I think is that Usama was absolutely spot on at the very start when he wrote there. I read that he said this is comedy. I think he is right about that, because if you read this thing about the dog, it feels like it was satire. It says, this is like the parable of the dog. If you chase it, it pants, and if you don't chase it, it pants. It's like, that's not a parable. It sounds almost like the beautiful parables of Jesus and stuff. And then they were just making fun, and they just say something, it's like a parable of a dog. And they say that, there is no parable. There is no explanation. It makes no sense. So it actually sounds like they were doing that to make people laugh. That's all.
Wow.
What is the parable there about the dog panting? They don't explain anything, and it makes no sense. So, yeah, I think it was a comedy book.
JC, do you know that Muhammad does not know what the word parable is? We did a study on it in the past, and I would love to repeat it again. Maybe you can join me and Lloyd will do the parable of Muhammad. And you found that he does not know jack about what is the meaning for the word parable. Because the entire Quran, there is not one parable. Not one. But that is a parable. Yeah.
That sounds like fun. Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah. That is just, I mean, it's just that you read this and it just seems like such a desperate attempt to make sense of something that can't make sense.
Good luck.
So Balaam ordered the people to beautify the females and send the women with goods from the market so they could show them and sell them to the people.
Which, by the way, is a biblical truth. That's a biblical story. Because he said, if they sin, if the children of Israel sin against God, then God will curse them. The reason God is blessing them is because they're living in obedience to God. And they start having sexual relationship with these women. I believe there's a Moabite, if I remember it exactly. And that's how they sin against God. That's how they lost the war. But this had nothing to do with Joshua.
Exactly. I mean, I know. I'm losing sight of it because Joshua's not here.
We're trying to learn. I only ask one question. Who is Joshua? And so far, I don't know who is the guy.
So please, audience, ask the Muslims, tell us about Joshua from the Quran, convince us of his life and his mission. And
he's a prophet, man. Lloyd, Muslims are ordered by Allah to believe in his prophets and to believe in their books. There must be something you know about Joshua and something you know about his book so that you believe in. And it's amazing that the Bible gave us a book. It's called the Book of Joshua. We do have the book. You believe in a prophet and you believe in his book without knowing a jack about him. Hello?
Yeah. Sorry?
If Joshua was in the book, you would expect them to at least mention Jericho, because anyone who thinks Joshua would think Jericho. So the fact that it says young man, but there is no Jericho or anything like the walls or anything of the sort, it means, no, this was supposed to be somebody else, and they just had to shoehorn someone else in there, right?
I mean, wow. Villainous is asking, go on.
Yeah, right, bro.
Isn't dog an incorrect translation for angel, like it is in the Seven Sleepers story? Because if you change dog to angel, because the word apparently is angel, then it makes more sense.
If he leaves the angel, he will by himself. If you rush out, then you go. I don't know. Angels are very.
Sorry, because in the Seven Sleepers story, the word dog seems to be the word angel, and then it makes sense.
No. It was the dog stretched his arm. He's been dead dog, which makes no sense because the angels will not be able to go inside the cave as long as there is a dog there. It's the whole thing is nonsense. Even the story about the seven sleepers, which is it's we know where the story came from. It is another legend by the Jews, and Muhammad was just copying, or whoever helped him copying. It's God help us. It's a sad.
Yeah, so then the women were going to cause the children of Israel to commit
Sin.
adultery, and then the women with the women, so that Balak could have victory in battle. So they did, and one of their women with the name of Casti. I know Casti. She was the Instagram.
No, that not that one. It's a different one.
Casti, is she written in the book of dating from Nebuchadnezzar?
No, I never heard of that.
Just thinking, because I mean, like, where did Ibn Kathir get the name? I'm just curious.
Well, it's in the Bible.
Her name is in the Bible, Casti.
Yeah, the real name of the woman in the Bible, of course. But a Muslim, like, when sometime in my writing I put the real name, sometimes I put exactly what they said, which is always wrong. They couldn't even copy a name right.
Hold on, I gotta find this now.
Look at the story of the Bible, and she was killed by the spear. She and the man who was having an affair with her, and that's how the judgment of God stopped. I think we read about it. If you keep reading a little bit down, you will read it here.
Okay, we'll find it. Yeah, geez, that's okay. So one of them women by the name of Casti met with one of the great men from the children of Israel, Zimri, son of Shalom. He was said to be the leader of the tribe of Simeon, Ibn Jacob. He commits adultery, and Allah sends a plague on the children, and it spreads amongst the children of Israel. So when the news arrived to Phineas, Ibn Eleazar, Ibn Aaron,
Phineas is the one who killed him. Yeah.
He takes his spear and he kills the man and the woman in their tent. That's how the plague was ended. Ibn Kathir ended the story by stating that the number of those who were killed by the plague was 70,000. The smallest number was 20,000. Ibn Kathir said that maybe the story of Balaam took place when Moses' army entered Jerusalem for the first time after he left Egypt. And Allah knows best.
Yep, he knows nothing. He just copied from the Bible, different stories.
Ibn Kathir, well, he also said that the story of Balaam took place while they were wandering in the desert, and Allah knows best. So it happened two different ways.
Wait a minute.
It could be 10 different ways. I only mentioned two. That does not mean that I mentioned all of them.
JC?
Sorry, is Ibn Kathir saying that Moses entered with his armies to Jerusalem? I thought a moment ago he said that it was Joshua, and it was Ibn Ishaq who said that Moses is the one who entered Jerusalem.
It's very simple. Scholars disagree. And he's just quoting to us what scholars said to him. And that's why he always say, Wallahu a'lam, and Allah knows best. He does not know.
Can Muslims explain Islam from the Quran without using the Bible? Obviously not. They can't explain Messiah, the life of Job, Lot, Abraham, Moses, anybody. It critically requires the Bible and many other sources too.
Muslim cannot explain anything about anything, not in the Quran, not in the life of Muhammad, not in their tradition, nothing. They just don't know.
Yeah.
And whatever they know is they do it. Hopefully it is the right thing.
So Valina says, what I can tell you is the word something. You can just see that there Usama means dog. If you add an extra dot, it becomes Kalihom, their guardian angel, instead of Kalbohom, their dog. That's from Rob Christian. Just check that, Usama, the comment.
Kalbohom. Kalbohom is their dog. It is the only meaning we have in the Arabic language. Okay, let me see. I'm sorry. I have the arrow down there. It says here, Kalbuhum. That's Arabic. Okay. Kalihum. No, you cannot say Kalihum. It's Kalbuhum. In the Arabic language, very clear. It's their dog. I don't have another word for it. Malakuhum is not Kalbuhum. And that is caused a lot of hardship for Muslims. Try to help us to understand how can the angels go inside and turn these young men to the right, to the left, so they don't have pain in what do you call this bed sore in their back. But the dog was there, so that's a problem. It's a problem for Muslims, and they cannot come up with a different meaning for kalbum except their dog. Right. They agree there's only one dog, even though they disagree about the number of these young men who were in the cave.
Right. I'm just curious. I mean, we can always discuss that another time and go through more depth. Jace, I'm just thinking, we still have, for this particular story, we've got 4.5 pages to go. But JC, I thought maybe we can just have him introduce something so you can see what he does, and we can prep for Friday that way. Just give you a little bit of intro for Friday. Spend a few minutes on that.
Well, sure. We can actually. I was thinking that a little while ago there was this debate between David Wood and Daniel Hagikachu, and I believe that Usama was there. I think I saw you, Usama, at the end asking some questions. So thought I would just bring up something related to something that happened during that debate. 1 second, let me see if I can share the screen and so on.
By the way, we respond to the first session of his talk in 10 different radio broadcasts. We actually did almost 10 hours to respond to the first 20 minutes Daniel spoke. And on our next Saturday program, we're going to be starting the next session, which is, I cut it to 24 cuts. So I'm having fun to respond to us. I call it debating the debate, which is, it's ridiculous. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Sure.
Right. So during this debate, I can't remember actually the time stamp, but anyway, they certainly said that. So there was a comment with Daniel quoting something from the Bible when Jesus, I think, makes food halal or something, or saying that he fulfills the law. And he asked David, "Hey, so do you believe in the concept of abrogation?" Just like that. And David thought for a second and said, "No, we believe that a new covenant replaces the old covenant, but not the concept of abrogation that you have in Islam." And that actually shows something quite interesting with the Quran. It's not talking about the Islamic concepts of anything. It's normally the Christian views. Sometimes they are the Jewish views and so on. But very often, when we see something like this and it's very Islamic, it has nothing to do with Islam. It's all about Christianity. They simply just replace the meaning. And I think this verse shows that quite well. And there will be another one which does it even better. And Usama, if you're actually not familiar with the sort of things that we've been discussing, like on my channel and here with Lloyd, is verses that originally had nothing to do with Islam. They were, let's say, for need of a better word, they were borrowed from Christianity. And then later, the likes of Ibn Kathir or Al-Bukhari or whoever it may have been, they actually wrote a different story, very Islamic, and they put that story on top. But then that creates problems. And this one was one of them. So when David Wood said, no, we don't believe in abrogation as in Islam. We believe the new covenant. Yeah, that's actually what the Quran actually meant. When these things were told to the people and saying things like, we do not abrogate a verse or cause it to be forgotten, except that we bring forth a better one or similar to it, is like, yes, everybody would have understood that they are talking about the new covenant with Jesus and that nothing is forgotten. The Christians still had the Old Testament attached to the New Testament.
The sense
so
here
nothing is
that
forgotten.
we do not abolish the law, we fulfill it. So the law is not abolished, not forgotten. It is simply fulfilled. So we bring forth something better, something new, the advent of Jesus. So that would be the context here, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, quickly, I'll share something in my head here before I lose my thought. The verse which was given by Daniel in that debate was أحل لكم بعض ما حرم عليكم, or something like that, which means Isa came to confirm the Torah, but he made something which was lawful for the children of Israel. First of all, that's not abrogation. I mean, I'm sorry to say, both of Daniel and David are not accurate about that. That is a verse by itself. And when we talk about abrogation in Islam, like in that verse in front of us, that is concerning Quran abrogating verses in the Quran, not Quran abrogated verses in previous passages, previous books, as some. But again, that's English translation, like this idiot here. They're all of them. They're trying to make it that set. It's not talking about abrogation of verses, but verse, ayah, singular one. So we're talking about a verse from the Quran is removed by a new verse in the Quran, not the verse of the Quran to abrogate new previous verses in other books. This is Quran abrogating Quran. That doctrine does not exist in Jewish Christian faith. Jesus, as Brother Lloyd said a minute ago, did not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. We always, as a Muslim, when you come up with this, can you give me an example of what was unlawful in the Old Testament and Jesus came and made it lawful in the New Testament? You could not come up with one. In the Quran, I can show you hundreds of examples. It's all over the Quran. Every time you see a new verse, actually it's supersede or abrogate or replace a previous verse in the Quran. So Jesus said, it's very clear, heaven and earth will pass away, but one law, one little marker or one word from the law will not be passed away. All will be fulfilled. Jesus make it so complicated. Sometimes Muslims look at what Jesus said, it was written, but when Jesus said it was written, he's not talking about the writing of Moses. It's the writing of their people. There were 10 simple commandments. It's called the 10 commandments. And they made out of them hundreds of, 500 commandments or so. So the example Daniel used in the debate is, it was said to keep the Sabbath, but Jesus broke the Sabbath. Good. Show me. When did Jesus broke the Sabbath? Oh, when he performed all these miracles on the Sabbath. Really? You calling Jesus raising a dead young man to his mother, or healing the hand, the withered hand, or the lady, she have a broken, bended back. These miracles, or healing his mother-in-law, that's Peter's mama. All these miracles Jesus performed in the Sabbath, breaking the Sabbath, according to the writings of the Jewish leaders, not according to Moses' law. Because even Jesus, in some of these cases, said, okay, brought the man with a withered hand, and he asked him to stand up. So everybody look. Okay, is it good to do good on the Sabbath? Jesus asked. How many want to answer? Nobody. Why? Because he knows what he's going to do, and they know what they are waiting for him to do good. He told them, if a donkey fall in a hole, donkey fall in a ditch, Friday night, will you leave it until Saturday night to pick him up, or you raise him up? This is a child of Abraham. He healed his hand. He raised it. So the sin for the Jewish people in Jesus' days, the Pharisees, was Jesus performed miracles on the Sabbath. When in reality, that's not sin. Why? Because he was doing good on the Sabbath. And you could not find in the law, thou shalt keep the Sabbath holy, that you do not do any good work in it. Oh, his disciples ate from the grains of the field on the Sabbath, and they never washed their hand. Who made this law? Is it in the 10 Commandments? No, it is man-made laws, and Jesus is the Lord of the Sabbath. So obviously, instead of David say, you see there's abrogation in the Quran, and now you tell me that the Quran is not good. He tried to flip the table back to him. I would say Jesus never broke the Sabbath, or he had sin. And if Jesus had sin, when he said, who can convince me of one sin? Somebody say, yep, you did this wrong on the Sabbath, which is against the Torah. No, they could not do that. Jesus was a perfect Lamb of God without one sin. Without one sin. He never broke the Sabbath. For the Jewish people's eyes, he worked on the Sabbath. But in God's eye, in his own eye, he actually fulfilled the Sabbath.
Let's not go too long. I mean, just keep it a bit more concise on the point. JC, does anything come out of that for you?
Usama, that you're absolutely right. What I am putting forward, and I know is kind of a lot to take in by just getting one verse in the Quran, but as Lloyd has now experienced, like we have hundreds of different things that they seem to originally have been the Christian view. People would have understood this as this verse meaning, oh, this is talking about Jesus bringing the new covenant. But then we have people like the Tafsir writers that they start changing things and saying, okay, no, this is just because Muhammad is changing rules. The Quran has contradictions. So, okay, we know, let's actually abrogate, let's actually reinvent this meaning here to mean that we have, that we abrogate things that Allah said a few years prior. There is another verse that is, I think, more clear than this. This is a kind of like the very basic one. Then there is this one here in Surah 16. So verses 101 and 102, which is that it says pretty much the same, but I will just use this translation, literal translation from ChatGPT, that first is everything is speaking in the past tense. When we go to, well, I think this version here is from Daif International, most likely. Everything becomes present tense, which is wonderful when you see that they get the tenses wrong. So when we look at the Arabic, and you can confirm if this is wrong, of course, this is not my language, so I rely on tools and things like that, that it is talking that when they replaced a sign or an ayat in place of an ayat, analyze more knowing of what he's sending down, they said, so all of this is something that happened in the past, and they are saying to the person who is saying these things, you're only a fabricator. Of course, we say that is Muhammad, and if we look at the translations, they will put Muhammad everywhere, but he's actually not there. So they're saying that, and then a moment later it says, the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of holiness, has sent it down. So let's think for a second if, say that these two verses, that they had been taken from Christians, that they were preaching this in some way, maybe not Christians, maybe Nestorians, but let's keep it simple. Let's say that this was Christians, and there is someone who is, say, changing something and is accused of just making things up, and that person saying, the Holy Spirit has sent it down. Wouldn't that sound like it could be Paul, maybe one of the apostles, someone like that, particularly because it didn't say Jibril sent it down. It says the Holy Spirit, which
It's
is
like
a very,
Pentecost
very Christian.
almost. It's almost like a Pentecost theme to it. We've sent down the Holy Spirit to you. It's kind of something like that. After Jesus leaves, Ascension, Pentecost. It's got that kind of theme and vibe to it to me.
It's a deep talk. I mean, to literally talk about this, I go for another 10, 15 minutes, but I'll make it short. Obviously, if you want to take these to be not about the Quran, but about the disciples of Jesus, and you take somebody, make it out of what went on with the disciples of Jesus to bring it back to Muhammad, to mix them together. Muhammad used Ruh al-Qudus in the Quran, I believe, I don't know, 17 times or whatever number of times. And Muslim scholars come up with all different meanings. It could be Jibril himself. It could be the Quran. It could be the Bible. It could be
Muhammad.
Is a name which Isa used to raise the dead with. It could be anything. I mean, that's scholars. So, but once again, the first portion, and if we replaced a verse by a verse, by the way, ayah here, it only can mean verse. It cannot be miracle. It can only be verse. Because some translations say revelation, not revelation, verse, singular, one verse, a sentence. And the proof of that is, as you go through the doctrine of abrogation, you see it is always Allah changed one verse by another verse. Mm-hmm. And the problem Muhammad created for himself is when he stated, if it was from other than Allah, they would have found in it many inconsistencies. And there is plenty of inconsistencies. That's the only book of inconsistencies I've ever read in my life. And I read hundreds, thousands of books. So obviously, the inconsistency is there, but Muhammad fixed that by saying it is abrogation. Allah give another verse like the first one or better than it. Well, that's a long story. But anyway, so he was forging what? His Quran. Forging here is made it up. إنما أنت مفتري. Muftari means a liar, made it up. I put that maybe in my translation of forgery. I don't even know what word I use for that. I don't have my English book right now. But anyway, but most of them do not know. And then Muhammad assures them, Allah is saying, Muhammad, tell them, Qul means say to these people, the which people, the people who think you're lying, the people who say you made it up, that all my Quran was sent by angel Jibril. Ruh al-Qudus here, according to all Muslim scholars, it is actually Gibrish himself, angel Jibril. Anyway, so but you can always come up with anything you want to come up with every verse in the Quran. And
but
the beauty about that
are accurate, right? The tense changes do happen.
It was نزله, it's still past tense. الروح القدس من ربك, from your Lord. I mean, think about even the language. Who's speaking here? Allah. And Allah said from your Lord, he should say from me. Keep it good Arabic grammar. It's terrible. The Quran is terrible. I mean, said, وَإِذْ بَدَّلْنَا, Allah is speaking. Wallah alam, and I know he should not say and Allah knows, and I know if you are Allah speaking, who's speaking here? And if we change a verse instead of another verse, and I know he should not say an Allah because he's speaking there as Allah. Why is he saying I and Allah knows? Why he did not say and I know? Because it's Allah speaking. So it's like somebody speaking on the behalf of Allah, third person, and then Allah speak, and then Muhammad, and then Allah speak, even though the whole thing is Allah speaks. Allah's speech. So, قُلْ نَزَّلْهُ الرُّوحِ, say it was sent by the Holy Spirit. By the way, this is not the Holy Spirit. It is sent by Holy Spirit. Not the Holy Spirit. Because in Arabic, say Ar-Ruh al-Qudus. Not Ruh Qudus. It's like any spirit. But they make him Holy One. From your Lord. No, he should say from me. Allah speaking with the truth to confirm those who believe and as guidance and it is continuing in the present tense. It's a mixed grammar. It is the Quran is the only book which we don't have grammar. As a matter of fact, you cannot use grammar to see if the Quran is right or wrong because Muslims believe you can fix grammar with the word of Allah in the Quran. It doesn't matter. What Allah said in the Quran grammatically is accurate and everything else is wrong. The grammar of the Arabic language is wrong, except when it is used in the Quran, it is the right way, the Quran, whatever else. It's nonsense. God help us.
All right.
Yeah, I think there is a hadith that I think it was supposed to be Aisha saying to Umar, hey, but this book is completely full of errors and stuff. And he said, don't worry, the Arabs will just fix it with their tongues. It's like, okay, so they just didn't care about this very much, did they?
That's wrong hadith. I believe it is the only way you can fix the Quran, how you pronounce the word, because it was written obviously without the vowels and the dots. You can make tamr, hindi, banana, bedinjan, anything out of it. You can do whatever you want. You can just.
So very interesting. So we can discuss more on Friday just to see, what you think of some of the suppositions. Because once you put the story together, it seems to make good sense and it aligns with certain ideas in history, I would say. But it's something we can discuss and see, what your thoughts are. Because look, Mal, for instance, the first time he got his head around this, he didn't understand it. Now he's got his own, he understands it now. So, but it might take a little bit of time, obviously, because to give you one or two verses, it might not seem logical. But once you start to put the story together,
like that, bro.
So
the whole book is like that. The entire Quran is like that. It's a big mess.
Yeah.
I mean, think about me and Yusuf and Muhab. We studied together sometime for a program, and we stuck in one verse for an hour, and we laughed because if people who have education and know the Arabic language, one from Saudi, two from Egypt, could not figure out what in the world Allah is talking about. How can the Muslim in the world can figure it out? When majority of them cannot even, not 99% of them do not have our education. I don't think there's even 1% of the Muslim in the world have some college degrees.
Yeah, the Quran seems to also be shuffled. Like there are all of these stories like a split. You have one little section in here, then over there. So that already doesn't make sense. And yes, I've experienced by having the Quran completely literally translated and then going back and forth on some surahs and saying, but it doesn't say anything. It's what Lloyd was saying earlier. He's saying, well, there is a guy and then things happen and fear Allah. And then, well, when he went to another place and then something happened and it's like, okay, so don't give me names, don't give me places, don't give me dates, don't give me actions, just say things. It's just so you could actually just read Alien versus Predator in some of those verses and it would fit. So I know the pain.
If you read the Quran in the Arabic language, the sad thing, most people who are doing this ministry of ours do not speak Arabic. That's a very sad thing. And if you read it in the Arabic language, it's an empty book. It's a very, very empty book. It does not have a story. It jumped from A to Z to L to M to B to C to Y to Z to X to Y to A. I mean, literally, all the alphabet in chaos order in it. And good luck to figure out what it seemed to me. You have to understand this. According to the story we hear from the Muslims, it was written in a small portion of bones and palm leaves so obviously it's like a cocktail of verses, and you juggle them in the air, and you fall in the box, and you put your hand in the box, you get one at a time, and put them in whatever order they come out of the box, and now you got the Quran. Are you kidding me? It is. And I laugh when Muslims say, well, you're taking that verse out of context. The entire Quran is written out of context.
Exactly.
There's nothing.
Yes, one of the things that we are now doing on our channel is with our brother John. He is trying to make sense of the mess that is the Quran by looking at it through the lens of the Bible. So he will look at verses that basically they make no sense, so any of them, and then he will think, because he knows the Bible pretty much by heart, he will realize, I have seen this theme before. And then he will actually quote sections, either Old Testament, New Testament, and say, look, can we actually see the theme? It's almost like they had this thing in mind, but that they made a huge mistake when they're trying to translate this, and they lost the meaning. But if people had those verses in the Bible in mind, they actually made sense. And the interesting thing is the explanation we get.
That you know the Bible. It seems to refer to the Bible, so you can back engineer it as well, I think.
I believe you're right. I've seen that myself throughout the last 25 years or so of my life. I see things Muhammad talk about the Quran. I know it comes from somewhere else in the Bible, and I got enough evidence of that in my writing in these books. But I also believe if you can read the Arabic of the Quran from another language, Aramaic, Syriac, you'll come up with many stories of the Bible, but somehow they twist it as they put them in the Arabic.
That's exactly what we're discovering, Usama. So maybe Friday we can talk about this some more, because that's exactly what you will find. And I think you'd find it interesting. It just gives us a new perspective, because these authors wrote it and they came up with a particular style or narrative or method of taking ideas, modifying them, reapplying them, and they had a method. And I think we're starting to uncover the method.
Yeah, that'll be fun for me. I'd love to see what else is there, because I am here to learn. I still have a few more years to live, and Lord's willing, I would love to learn until I die.
Yeah, although doing these weekly shows has shortened my life expectancy. And if I die early, it's because I want to, after reading this book for so many weeks.
Sorry, man. Hey, with Christ, that's much better. Much better. You trust me. There's no suffer there. There's no pain. There's no sin. There's no sorrow. You'll be so happy.
So should we call it a night here? Because
Wait a minute. I thought we're gonna move for the next session, the next 2 hour. MoveOn.org.
I'm gonna send my wife to give you a piece of her mind if I don't.
Oh, no, thank you. Time is out. Let's close. Get close. Goodbye. Good night.
Yeah.
I don't want to have any more good speech from anybody's wives. They all like me when I let them go at their perfect and go in peace, brother. Go in peace.
I wonder what I can see is that Muhammad is Paul in reverse. Now that's an interesting thought. That actually is an interesting thought. But they hate Paul. That's an interesting. But yeah, let's discuss more. So guys, we shall be back on Friday as a panel with Odon LaFontaine, and we're going to be talking about this whole Quran thing and this whole mystery. So let's hope we see you then. And thank you very much for being with us on this journey and discussion. And I look forward to seeing you guys all, in just a couple of days. All right.
Amen.
Yeah.
Peace and blessing.
Thanks all very much. God bless.